President Trump clashes with some Republicans, including one-time ally Marjorie Taylor Greene over the Epstein files. He has also weighed in gently on another Republican feud, whether it was wrong or in any way inappropriate or politically tone-deaf for Tucker Carlson to interview white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Here was the president on that topic.
We've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out. Let him, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide.
Decide what? Those words certainly caught Fuentes' attentions. He went to social media, and said thank you to the president. Here for analysis, David Brody serves as chief political analyst for the Christian Broadcasting Network. In addition to that, you are very read in on the Trump world, MAGA world. You've interviewed the president many times. You know many in his inner circle. And you know as well as I do, David, we've talked about this on the program last week and the week before, this Tucker Carlson-Nick Fuentes encounter, the platforming of someone who is an admirer of Hitler, admirer of Stalin, does not believe in democracy, wants a white nationalist America dominated by white men. He says it. Those are not my words. And he's also an anti-Semite who denies the Holocaust. This has created this tremendous generational schism within the movement. Do conservatives believe in this or that?
We're about to find out in the next couple of years. We don't know the answer to that. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. The concern here is that it's coming from Tucker Carlson. I mean, that's the big issue here. What he did not ask Nick Fuentes in that interview. You just played that clip of President Trump. I mean, President Trump is right in the sense of no one's saying, hey, look, this is not a free speech issue.
No, of
Knock
course
yourself
not.
out. Let him have it.
But what speech represents the future of the MAGA movement, and what does he have to say about that future? On Hannity last week, the vice president was asked this semi-rhetorical question by Sean Hannity. You know the president wants to pick the ticket. And J.D. Vance said, yes, I know that. Meaning the president wants to take an active role in what the future of MAGA is. Can you take that active role and be agnostic on what Nick Fuentes does or doesn't represent?
I think President Trump will do what he does, which is to be agnostic until he doesn't have to be. And I think eventually that's going to come down to potentially a J.D. Vance, maybe a Marco Rubio. He's been talking up Marco Rubio a lot. And I think that's kind of a proxy war, if you will. J.D. Vance, more populist. Marco Rubio, a little bit more, let's call it, a bit more neocon. Maybe not the full neocon that he once was, but for sure, that is the two different worlds right now in Trump orbit.
But can MAGA survive if someone like Nick Fuentes, and I know he has a following among young male conservatives, is a rising voice who is opposed to gay rights, opposed to trans rights, opposed to minority rights in some ways, and is an anti-Semite and a Holocaust denier, and all these things that he says about himself. And he wants to be platformed and wants to have a role in all of this.
I don't see it happening. I really don't. Having said that,
how does it get short? What's the off-ramp for that? If Trump doesn't say anything about it, J.D. Vance doesn't say much about it, and lots of other Republicans don't say much about it either.
Well, Nick Fuentes loves to believe he has some sort of platform. Don't get me wrong, 5 million or whatever his social media following is, and he's got some young males that are following him. But this idea that he has some sort of political movement behind him or an organizational movement behind him just isn't true. And I think it can be snuffed out, if you will, and I put that in air quotes. Please, we're not trying to say anything when I say snuffed out. By a J.D. Vance or someone like President Trump that will eventually have to kind of weigh in even more so than they already have.
And Nick was no fan of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Turning Point USA is going to continue. Erica's the living embodiment of that continuance. It has grown since the horrific, massively tragic and traumatizing death of Charlie Kirk. Is that a counterpoint to Nick in some ways or no?
Well, sure. I mean, I think what the Charlie Kirk movement, if you will, has been taking off like wildfire. And then all of a sudden we see this, right? And a lot of people are concerned specifically that this has come at a really bad time, especially with I hate to call it momentum, but we saw a lot of faithful momentum after Charlie Kirk. And there was a lot of folks saying, hey, it's time for a new spiritual revival. And we saw that. And then all of a sudden, this plays out. And we like to call that a little bit of spiritual warfare in the faith world. In other words, something good comes and all of a sudden something bad is right behind it.
And Tucker knows what's going on. As the saying goes, he knows what time it is. What is he trying to do?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, he believes that he has a great relationship, and he does, with J.D. Vance. And I think this is, like I said, going forward, I think this is all about what the Republican Party looks like in 2028. Is it going to be a J.D. Vance-type party with a Tucker Carlson behind him? I think that's going to be problematic, quite frankly, for J.D. Vance, because I think the Tucker Carlson, him saying what he's saying, is such a problem in the conservative world. You know, there's this circle, if you will, and the Nick Fuentes, and I don't want to say it with Tucker Carlson quite yet, but Nick Fuentes is not part of MAGA. He's not even far right. He's anarchist right in the circle, if you will, kind of close to the anarchist left. Tucker Carlson definitely making his way that way.
David Brody, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming in and breaking this down for us.
Anytime.
I really do appreciate it.